Hello everybody, it's me, Poseidon. At long last. Do you recall being a kid and playing Need for Speed Underground or Most Wanted? I do. Yeah, I'm pretty old. Alas! Since those, dare I say, awesome games, this series has diverged and was handed out to various developers, went through awful releases, tried its best and failed, and finally this came out. At last, Need for Speed Heat manages to recapture the essence of why I personally used to enjoy this series so much. If you'd ask me, I'd say it feels like a fusion between many other entries in the series, but somehow it all works. It's a bit of a science project, the way I see it. Take the many tuning options and the open world map design present in older titles. Take the Frostbite engine from the more recent releases, which looks quite pretty in my opinion. Take the pursuit mechanics present in many other Need for Speed games and crank it to 11, while at the same time slapping a little bit of legal racing akin to Need for Speed Pro Street, and you get this thing. And I gotta say, this thing is shockingly good. Let me tell you why that is. Heat's design revolves around the day-night mechanic. During the day, you earn lots of cash via legal events. The races themselves are mostly circuits, which are annoying in my opinion. Other types of races include drift events and off-road circuits and sprints. Naturally, you need to spec cars appropriately to do well in the respective category you'd like to tackle. For instance, a four-wheel drive car won't do well on a drift track, but would serve you well off or on the road. Daytime's fine. It's lax, the cops don't bother you unless you ram into them like the maniac you most likely are, and the races rarely demand you to win. Second or third place is fine and yields plenty of cash. Of course, one would strive for first place, but it's pretty sweet not having to run around in circles again. If you spec into drift components, I gotta say drifts become a bit of a joke, as the car, or at least my particular RX-7, will start drifting on its own, and all you have to do is keep it under control. Easy. The footage in the background shows this. Off-road races are fun and contain quite a few jumps, which are always entertaining to watch. Not much to say about these, they're pretty straightforward. There is, however, a race so well thought out and unique that... So you race on a railway track, right? This means you don't have to turn that much, which means you can maintain copious amounts of speed while rarely having to slow down. The area also gives it points, as racetracks and train tracks don't really mesh particularly well, generally. They do here. It's Need for Speed. Deal with it. Alright, Now that we're done with the daytime bit, let's go where the action really lies. Nighttime. During the night, you engage in illegal street racing and gain reputation rather than cash. Reputation has 50 levels and gradually unlocks better performance parts and cars to purchase from the car lot or whatever it's called in this game. The races themselves switch from circuits to sprints more often than not, which is awesome. Even drifts become downhill. The cops are on high alert and will try to bust your ass on sight. They are probably the most aggressive cops I've seen in this series, especially at high heat levels. Speaking of heat, wink wink, you gain heat levels the more you race at night or engage in pursuits, obviously. Level 1 is pretty lame, level 2 is kinda easy too, 3 is where things crank up dramatically. Cops become more aggressive and will ram you quite frequently. 4 and 5 are essentially your worst nightmare, as their aggressiveness is even more cranked up and the chopper starts surveying your ass at level 5. Granted, it's not all bad. Each heat level multiplies your reputation gained for that night if you make it back to a garage, that is. So if you have about 10k rep, you're at level 5 heat, you'll have 50k. It's simple but effective. You get into the habit of wanting to get higher heat, to get more out of the night. Not only that, nighttime is home to 2 events on the map. One unlocks at heat level 3 and one at heat level 5. These events are hard as nails. They are high octane sprints that scale to your level of performance. Yes, you have a level in this game. So not only will you face the toughest opponents you can possibly face for the time being, no matter how decked out your ride is, you'll have insanely aggressive cops on your tail too. But wait! There's more! These races give you access to a mechanic called volatile parts. Why? Doesn't matter. It works. And it's awesome. Fuck realism! No sarcasm, by the way. So, once you beat one of these, you have to haul ass back to a garage and bam, you get a good piece of gear. If you get busted after the race, you lose the part. Heat 5 races have a chance to yield the highest tier of upgrades in the game, and I find that refreshing, and I see it as an end game, essentially, which is cool, I'd dare say. I'm sure you've noticed this little bar next to the speedometer or whatever. This is your health gauge. Yep, you also have HP in this game. If that's depleted, you're kicked back to the garage, tail between your legs. The only 2 ways to restoring this HP is either running through a gas station or pack a repair kit. Gas stations fill your gauge up, while repair kits give you half of it back. Ah, but here's the thing. During the night, you can only use gas stations 3 times, as cops will shut them down afterwards. How? Why? Nobody cares, boy. This mechanic balances pursuits and makes you feel vulnerable, upping the stakes of each nighttime venture. So unlike in Most Wanted from 2005, you're not driving a tank that can go indefinitely as long as you don't blow your tires running through a spike strip. This is good, I'd say, in my opinion, but I doubt it's just my opinion here. This is a good change and gives a sense of urgency to each pursuit. You want to get away from the cops so you can keep racing and gain more rev without using up your heals, quote unquote. On the subject of heals, the repair kit is incredibly useful as you can activate it at any time and can help you get out of tight situations with the cops. Or, as you're making your way back to a garage, you have a radar that you can spot cops on. So, if you have a repair kit available, you can hold onto it and use the radar to drive, disregarding the traffic. Even if you do crash into the cars, it won't matter, as you'll be able to regain that HP back if need be. Apart from the repair kit, there are other options like nitrous refill or some other things that I don't care about and never tried. Give them a spin, but in my opinion, repair kit is God. So when all of this happens at once, you get races like this one. As you can see, I'm not doing particularly well in this race. However, the cops are genuinely hogging me for most of the race. And yes, this is just one race.
The crew's gotta step up to keep up with us. Tell them to get going.
Wanted reinforcements? You got them.
I mess up a couple of times, and I decide to go off the beaten path to regain my HP back.
Sound like they're on their last leg. Playtime's over for this one. Damn driver sped off before I could nail him.
This obviously took a toll on my position in the race, but thankfully I managed to win it nonetheless.
Hey, just FYI, we're dropping spikes in the road up ahead.
I could have sworn that there were a lot more of us when the night started. Control, can you send us more units?
Pickup units are inbound.
My vehicle's taking too many hits tonight. It's not rolling anymore.
All right.
I'm sure you've noticed the big differences between night and day by now. They're night and day. Definitely don't hate myself after that one. Alas, there are many more smaller differences that don't impact gameplay that much. Let's just say they are quality of life options you have during the day and you get jack shit during the night.
All units.
Like fast travel or switching your car to match the event you're about to tackle as you reach the event and try to access it. On the flip side, the music gets marginally better during nighttime. Off the track and into the garage, the game excels here as well, in my opinion. The customization options are diverse enough to enable one to create something truly special. I cried when I finished my GTR. Yes, I cried. I call it mine for a reason, because I put a lot of effort into this thing. And if a game enables you to make something that stirs something inside you, I'd call it good. Granted, you might as well shit all over my effort and say my GTR looks like shit. I will kindly disregard your opinion and move on. Up to you. I'm no expert in racing games, but I've always enjoyed playing them. There's a particular charm to frantic, fast as fuck driving and running from the cops. Speaking of which, the gameplay feels very good, the controls are tight, the cars are fast, and you feel the inertia as you hit 200 to 300 kilometers per hour. Yes, I use kilometers. Sue me! Alright, so the game feels good, is well put together, keeps you coming back, as it has endgame activities, pursuits are more frantic than ever, and there's over 100 cars to choose from. This is all good. How come this game wasn't seen as the shining beacon of hope for the franchise I see it as? Well, it's not all good, sadly. The story is a bit run-of-the-mill. You get a customizable character, and I made him look like Johnny Bravo. Because why not? The support characters are a bit annoying, minus the mechanic, who's actually kind of nice. None of them are fleshed out, and the story overall fails to deliver. The music is also an issue for me personally. Some peeps might enjoy the soundtrack, but I mostly don't. There are good tracks here, as I previously stated, really good, but they are few and far between. The R&B Latino stuff. To make matters worse, the really good tracks are off the road entirely. One can find them in the garage, which seems a bit counterintuitive to me. Granted, these never really took me out of the experience. I suppose it boils down to your reason to play a Need for Speed game. Is it for the plot and the fun characters? No! It's for the racing. And that bit is great. Driving around, getting chased by cops, or completing the random optional objectives on the map. It all feels great. So, if you can take the upbeat hipster characters and all that R&B, go for it. It'll be worth your time if you're into racing games that aren't afraid to bend some physics laws and care more about their structural integrity rather than realism. If you're not, why are you here? Go watch my other videos instead. This is where I get off. See you in my next vid. I'ma try to include some DMC5 footage soon. I've become quite invested in that game, while Harros has been hogging Dark Souls 3.